Hey, what's up, cats and kittens? Welcome to Shanth Enjeti Art. I am Shanth Enjeti, and that's how you pronounce this name. I'm going to be doing some comic books very soon and launching them on Indiegogo, just like I did art books 1 and 2, which some of you may have purchased and backed. And if so, I thank you very much for doing so. I'm going to be working right now on a comic book project that is going to be launching soon, and I could not be more excited about it. It's going to be a horror, fantasy, vampire, werewolf, everything I love about spooky stuff comic book. So I'm just going to be here working for a little bit. Feel free to drop in and say hello. I will try to, will definitely mind the chat, and we'll see where it goes from here. So, good to see everybody. And, yeah. If you have questions, put them in the chat. Other than that, it's going to be a chill stream. You may have noticed a slight difference if you're a long-time viewer, which is me wearing reading glasses. So my work has undergone a huge change because I recently learned that probably within the last year or so, my vision has gone downhill. And the good news is I was able to get into an optometrist, and they took a look at things and they were like, yeah, you should probably have some reading glasses. Now, as a result of that, my ability to work quickly and to see any of the fine detail that I do in my work was pretty much eradicated. So now that I've got that, I am just moving along at a really fast clip on this book. And it's really exciting. It's really invigorating. I cannot stop drawing because I was getting these, and some of you guys who wear glasses might know this all too well, but I was getting these horrible headaches from straining my eyes to look at my work, and I didn't know what the heck was going on. And at the same time, when I would scan my work and I would, take a look at it and I'd move around, I would see all of these really rough, flawed areas anywhere I looked, and I was thinking, what the heck is going on? Is something up with the scanner? Basically I was too slow to figure out, the most obvious thing in the world, which was there was a problem with my vision, my eyes. So you'll see me wearing glasses now, which is making my life so much better. So, to everybody who works in the field of optometry, thank you for your fine work, and thank you for helping me out. Much appreciated. So, I'm going to be having this book probably, I'm going to do a pre-launch page soon, and when I do, I'm going to post it here, and I'm going to post it on my Instagram. And if you aren't following my Instagram, it is at Shanth Enjeti Art. Please check it out. And you can see sort of the in-progress stuff. And here's a place where you'll see the in-progress stuff too and have some conversation. But a lot of the people that I've been following who are working in crowdfunding comics, and frankly, they are responsible for why I did my crowdfunded art books. They made me realize how important it is to cultivate something that you yourself own and to build your own stuff, because anything you build for other people can be lost, redistributed, and taken away. And for a lot of artists who've spent, their 20s, late 20s, or entirety practically of their 20s and 30s working for other people, you know how true that is. And so, having done those first 2 art books, the big thing for me has been realizing that, oh my gosh, I could, do the comic book that I've always dreamed of doing. And it's not my first comic book. I've done comics before, but never in this style, never in this painted style that I do. And so that's one of the things that's super important. This is very surreal indeed. What's up, Edmund? Good to see you, brother. And hello to whoever is with you. It is surreal, isn't it? This is your first time seeing me with glasses. But I'm not your former teacher, by the way. I'm the person who ate your former teacher. I gotta go on a diet. That's just the way it is. But it's good to see you guys. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is surreal. So I started working on this stuff. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Haunted Mansion, a big fan of, horror comics and creepy and eerie and all that stuff. So that's kind of the vein this is going to be in. And let me see. Oh my gosh. The usual suspects. Well, it's good to see all of you. Now, Jesse and I, if I'm not mistaken, now I'm old, by the way. Teachers aren't supposed to remember all this stuff. But Jesse, if I'm not mistaken, I met Jesse in continuing education. Let me know in the chat if I'm correct on my memory there. Let me see here. I also believe I talked to Jesse and his mother once in a Panera Bread. So that's like deep cuts right there. That's like really good memory, if I'm accurate on that. Oh man, the memory is still there, more or less. Oh my goodness. Never know when it's gonna fade. But yeah, one of the things I've been working on lately with this stuff is just trying to mind things like the skull and blowing things out just a little bit, because it was at the point where it just wasn't flowing like I wanted it to. And so now I'm kind of breaking things up so they go into shadow. Jesse's bored. Good. There you go. Excellent. I'm so glad I actually remember this stuff. Oh, nice! Oh my gosh, this is getting surreal. This is like old home week. All those students. Wow, that's craziness. Yeah. I think you guys were in college, all of you, at the best time to possibly be in college, let me tell you. So you guys were there during a really cool time. Let me see here. But yeah, I started looking at all these people who were crowdfunding, doing crowdfunded comic books, and they were really inspirational for me. They kind of, were a bunch of guys who were about, my age and had worked for a really long time in various industries and decided to kind of go for it and figure out what they wanted to do. And, I started kind of getting to know them and getting to know other people in the field and in the industry, and sort of like going, all right, it's time to do some work on comics. And it's just a lot of fun. It's a blast working on this. It's kind of, very pulpy and, I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is, but very pulp, very 1970s maybe. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is there, but everything I liked about comics. And back in the old days. Let's see where this goes. There we go. So yeah, I'm still working in my Pelican Pan opaque watercolors on 300-pound cold press. Whoa, that's intense. 300-pound cold press watercolors. Watercolor paper. And so this is a little bit of a gander at what I'm working on. This is a huge double page spread. And so that's a big part of what I've been up to lately. So we'll see if we can fit that back on screen. There we go. Move this in just a bit. Oh, nice. You just watched Heavy Metal last night. That does seem relevant. I'm glad you guys are liking it. Yeah, Heavy Metal, it's like all that work that, that was just done. I mean, which Heavy Metal are you talking about? Are you talking about the, shoot, which one, what era would that have been? Because I think are there more Heavy Metal movies than just the one? I could be wrong. Is there a new one out? Just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Yeah, I loved Heavy Metal when I was a kid. But, I mean, I think the stuff that Mobius and all of them was doing was just incredible. Love that stuff. Okay, excellent, yeah. Yeah, I love that stuff. I've been, it's interesting. I grew up in the 80s, during the time when a lot of that stuff was kind of present, even though some of it started in the 70s. And it was just a really cool time for artwork. I mean, I think things are always free for artists, and, you can always do, you're always free to do things. It's just you're not always, you have different consequences depending on what era you're working in, and it's hard to imagine how something like Heavy Metal could even exist in any real sense today. But, I mean, it can if people will it to happen, but that's what I'm doing anyway. Just making the stuff. that you're that's not art directed to death. No offense to my art directors, by the way. I'm sure you guys are merciful art directors if you are. Yeah, watching heavy metal. That's interesting. I've been watching. Oh gosh, what have I been watching? I was watching An American Werewolf in London. I've been watching Brides of Dracula. So I've been watching a lot of Hammer horror lately. Stuff that I was introduced to by my good friend Michael over at The Choice Voice. If you want to hear a old school Shanth dissection of a movie and nerding out, me and Michael did a discussion about Blade, starring Wesley Snipes, and I love that movie. So, but my friend Michael over at The Choice Voice introduced me to Hammer horror, and Hammer horror is going to influence a lot of this book. And one of the things that one of the movies that I got into when I first started looking at Hammer horror films was a movie that I think Michael had seen, but I don't know if he had watched it. Actually, no, he hadn't watched it yet. And it was a movie called Twins of Evil that was done in the 70s. And so there's a ton of references to Twins of Evil in this, like a ton. So yeah, if you like stuff that's a little bit more, I don't know, hardcore, but not by what that means these days, but who knows, maybe so. But stuff that's a lot more fun and for adults, like heavy metal, and this book will be right up your alley, because that's the stuff I've been interested in. I've been looking at a lot of European stuff lately, even beyond Mobius, yeah, there's just so many things that I wish we could do, which we can do. We just have to do them and get them funded. And I know some of you guys have gotten Art Book 1 or Art Book 2, and I appreciate that very much, because that's where this stuff is going. It's going to be one of those art books. It's going to be the same scale. It's going to be the same format book, because I want them to all kind of work together. And I want to make sure the artwork's large enough to look at. So that's kind of the plan right now. Let me see what I can do here. There we go. I'm not even in frame. Look at that. I'm a bad host. There we go. Let's get that moved back a little bit. This camera setup is like an ongoing challenge, so we'll see. Yeah, there you go. I can see that a little bit. So again, I'm just using those matte blacks that come in the Pelican pan, and that just gives me that nice reflection-free surface. Oh, nice. Excellent. Yeah, that book was named what it was named. Funny enough, all the titles of those books, I don't want to give away too many secrets for what I do, but this isn't really that much of a secret. But I think when I did that book, I was coming off of a really frustrating series of years. And I thought to myself, like, I need to make something that I own, that, I actually have some ownership in. And so the idea of naming it Autonomous Treks was the whole reason for it, which is that kind of quest for autonomy. And that's something I'm very much on right now, is just I want to do the stuff and create my own things, and I want that to be the central part of what I do financially and everything else, because this may be hard for you guys to imagine, but I doubt it. But yeah, when you're in your mid-40s, you think about these things. You go, man, I'm tired. I want to just do the things I enjoy doing. And I think that something that I'm sure you guys are aware of, and a lot of people are aware of, is there's this sort of joy in work that is deemed lowbrow in intellectual circles. There's this realness to it. Heavy metal, having watched that, you get a sense of it. And it's something that has always been frowned upon in intellectual circles, or it's a kind of a glib or thin version of it. And it's just like, it's what I'm amazed by. It's the stuff that affects the culture the most, and it's frowned upon. You just kind of are like, you get to a point where, the stuff that I care about and the stuff that I'm interested in is not the same stuff that chin strokers are typically interested in, with all due respect. I'm not interested in, I don't know, I've spent a lot of time in my career defending highbrow, and there's no love coming back at lowbrow, so to speak, although I disagree with that association. So I think that's kind of, again, a pretentious view of what it is. I like the stuff that affects everyday people. That's why and that affected me when I was coming up. And having done my bit for King and Country in that regard, I've realized if I want to defend the work that I care about and I believe in, it's not going to happen in a place where that kind of work is disrespected, unfortunately. And so the cool thing about it is I've been finding, the more I've kind of stepped out on my own and done my work, the more I've met people who are really interested in what I'm doing, and that it's really strange. I mean, it's a bit overwhelming, to be honest, because I did it because another former student of mine, who I was working on, helping him with a project he was working on, named Cameron Scott Davis, somehow inspired me to get onto Instagram. And one thing led to another, and it was really funny. Like, it just sort of took off. And if you want a little bit of an inside story of how funny this world is, I had people coming up to me. I don't know if I should tell that, actually. No, I'll tell it. I don't care. I had people coming up to me and asking me the question at work, going, "So, like, how did you get all those followers? Like, what'd you do? Did you pay somebody?" It's amazing how people can unknowingly, or not even unknowingly, how people can insult you without, being aware of how insulting what they're saying is. It's like, did you pay someone to like your work? No, actually, I just put my work on the internet. That was it. And people saw it and liked it. That was it. So, not only was it a shock to me, but it made me realize, I don't know, it wasn't a shock to my wife, it wasn't a shock to my brother Nick Janesheg, who I think some of you guys know, but that it was a shock to so many other people that I was around, was kind of a little bit of a wake-up call, going, like, if I heard something like that about someone, I would go, "Oh, congratulations, that's awesome." Like, if I saw someone, getting married, I wouldn't say, "Wow, she's beautiful. Did you pay for her?" Like, that's a weird thing to say. But it kind of goes with the territory. And so my attitude is, about this stuff is that it's like, I'm interested in doing work and being around people who get things like why people are interested. There we go. Why people are interested in my work, because and not going to attribute it to something, I don't know, something false. Now, if you've had me as a student, and a lot of you guys have, I'll let you know that that one of the things I was frequently asked back in those days was by people, they would lament, "Why are Shanth's classes so full?" Same thing. It's like, well, why do you think? And obviously it's because I was bribing you guys as a total stranger. It's like, oh, the joys of it all. So it's nice to have something that I own, so that I can spare people the mental gymnastics of trying to figure out what it could be. What could it be? Can't be quality. Can't be ability. It's too funny. And so the cool thing about, when you meet people in, in industry, and I know a lot of you guys have that experience, and you know it. You know that experience. Is that a lot of the people I'm meeting do not care about, things like status and things like, bureaucracy as a religion. A lot of the people I'm around look at my stuff and they're just kind of like, you're either good enough to hang or get out. And it's nice to know you can hang with other people who draw insanely well and paint insanely well. Excellent. Yeah, I know. Trust me, they will believe that. That would make a lot of people sleep better. You know what's sad is that I don't still have the checks from you guys taking my class. Oh man, but you guys were so fun. It's so fun teaching students when they're there to learn and having a good time. I mean, when I went off to school and whenever I'm doing art, and you can see it in all the stuff I'm doing right now, I'm having a blast. I could never figure out why people could be miserable making art, or what's the word I'm looking for here? Or miserable not making art and just talking about it. I just don't, I'm like, go find something you love. And I know with a lot of you guys, that was part of the trick. Like I think that it's important to think about artwork, but you really want to be making it at the same time and having a good time with it, because I mean, life is short. I've met some pretty amazing people in my time, and yeah, some of them have been students, and some of them have been, certainly colleagues, like Nick, who's like my brother. And the thing is that, the more time you spend around artists making work, and anybody doing the thing that you do, like physically, as opposed to pondering it, the more you feel alive. I remember someone saying one time that there are 3 places that the mind can occupy. One of them is the past, one of them is the present, and the other one is the future. And if you live in the past, you'll be depressed. If you live in the future, you'll be anxious. And the only healthy place to be is in the present, because when you're in the present, you're doing things. You're not thinking. And the thing about that is people will say, well, what about planning? That's in the future. It's like, no, that's actually doing something in the present. So that's your little nugget of borrowed wisdom for the evening. But it's so funny, but the more time I spend sitting around not doing things with other people sitting around not doing things, the worse I feel. And thankfully I'm with people who do things. So there you go. But yeah, a lot of time is passed. So remind me, Edmund, if you're still there and you're still watching, remind me, what was it that you, what is it that you do now? Because we talked about it. You came up and visited me once, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I remember what you were doing in school, but it's 3D, I believe. Let's see if I can get you to remember here. Let me see. No, I don't want that. And we'll get rid of that. Yeah, delete the news. There we go. We're back. Getting rid of that. Oh, I did. That's excellent. Nice. Excellent. So I've got my son, to give you a sense of how crazy my household is. I've got my son right now. I said if he wanted to get a computer, he had to learn Blender. And so he's now learned how to do Blender, building airplanes for video games that are kind of like open source. And so he's doing working airplanes and with landing gear and designing cars and animating them. And the kid's 15, and he's just loving it. I bet a lot of you guys were like that. But I mean, this kid's a monster. He's really getting it done. I'll have to send you some of his stuff. Shoot me an email or send me a message on Instagram, and I'll send it your way. You get a kick out of it. 15. Got 2 15-year-olds. It's crazy. Oh yeah. I mean, it was sort of funny because I have a lot of people talking about the tech and saying, well, my computer isn't running very well, and I told them, I go, my son was born in 2005, and the computer that I downloaded Blender on for him to use was from 2008. This was last year. That computer was ancient, and it's like he was so driven. So by the time I got him something, because I'm a man of my word, by the time I got him a machine that could that was current, he just started ripping it up. I mean, he's just he's teaching himself Photoshop and building textures, and chip off the old block. You gotta work, and you gotta get these things done. Okay, let's see if this holds. This will probably flop in a sec, but we'll see. There we go. That's a little better. So here's the old, these are the perks of glasses. There we go. Well, like, get him to do some work for you. We can't, like, let him have everything, right? Yeah, it's so funny, right? Because it's just, that kid, he works hard. Well, I'll have to introduce you to him at some point. It's like, all of you guys who are working in the field and who are doing all this stuff, it's like you speak 3D. Somebody assumed, wrongly might I add, that he learned that I was somehow teaching him 3D. I know nothing about it. So the people he talks to and that he's building stuff with online know more, and he knows more about it than I do. I know nothing about it. I've got 2 new skills I've picked up recently, or one that I'm picking up, and the other one I'm just now starting, which is I'm using YouTube to teach myself American Sign Language, and I also, about 6 months ago, started learning how to play the violin. So I'm always, kind of trying to pick up new skills, but that kid is sort of like I was with comics and art. He's just, burning through it, and it's cool. It's cool to see people working hard. My daughter's teaching herself how to play the guitar. I mean, these people, they're my kids, but, them people living in our house. They're hard workers. Proud of them. Well, gotta raise them right, That's the key. Find something that you can work hard at and provide this planet with a service and also a little bit of inspiration. I mean, to me, comics, video games, all of it, it's the stuff that matters more than anything else to me when I was coming up. There's a comic book that I was reading when I was a kid, and this is a terrible trade paperback of it from back in the day, called Grips. And it was just like a, bloody murder vigilante comic. Oh, actually, I've got the cover over here because I just got a print of it recently. And I was telling the artist who worked on this book, what a huge inspiration he was for me back in the day. And he actually, he inspired the cover for this book right here that I'm doing, which I think you probably saw. I posted it on Instagram. But the cover is based on Grips #1. And the artist, Tim Vigil, used to sign all of his stuff Liberty. So that was also an inspiration for the cover. That and my continued asking of students what Article 1 of the Constitution of the United States is. Those are my go-tos. Go. And just moving the brush, I mean, the better I can see, it's the more relaxed I get. I think that's the thing about it is I always thought that I would loosen up if I couldn't see things, but I can't. It's almost like it throws your muscle memory off. You can't really see what's happening when you're done, so you can't plant your brush where it needs to go. So that's been a huge plus. I'm thrilled to death with glasses right now, and will be for some time. My wife was joking. She's like laughing at me because I was so excited. She's like, "You're like the first person. You're acting like you're the first person to ever get glasses." And she was right. I just was walking around going, oh my God, I had no idea how bad my vision had gotten. And yeah, it's easy to be appreciative of the little things and the big things too. I mean, it's that constant mixture. I mean, I did a presentation at the college I'm teaching at now, a place called Montserrat College of Art. And we had there's like this thing they do where it's like you give faculty talks at faculty meetings. And I got asked to give one, and which was nice. And when I was giving it, I said, my students have always asked me what the meaning of life is. And like as a joke, they always will ask me that from time to time. Some of you guys may recall such things. And I said, and as a joke, I've always kind of gone with, 42, because, I'm a nerd. And I always thought that was funny. But, at this point in my life, not that I've lost my sense of humor. One has to maintain a sense of humor. But I got to the point to where the most honest thing for me to say is my wife and kids. That's the meaning. And so I showed a slide of the family in that presentation as the first slide. I said, this is the reason why I do everything. And I will say this, the coolest thing about, I think it's actually been just a great time for our family, which is while we've been home and I've been working remote, I've gotten to really get to spend a lot more time with my kids. And it dawns on me sometimes, when your kids grow up and they're 15, you go, how much more time are you gonna get with your kids? And you start to really, they've always been my number one priority. Lauren's number one, and they're 1.5. But yeah, I mean, family is everything for me, man. It's like that and art. That's pretty much it. And passing this stuff on too. And all the different ways you can do that. Never really seen you make the world. That's right, Michael. Good to see you, brother. How you doing? I'm so excited about our stream. I was just talking about you in the video we did about Blade. Some of these guys will have to go by and check it out. If you see Michael's name in the chat and you click on that link, go subscribe to The Choice Voice. He's the man with the plan and the captain of the Starship Valiant. He does some incredible fan films that I was fortunate enough to get to do a poster for. And just a terrific guy. And a big supporter of me and the stuff I do. And always an honor and a pleasure to hang with that man. Very cool stuff. And we got to do an art lesson soon, Michael. Speaking of, Michael, you gotta tell me to shut up when we're hanging out, because I have so much fun talking to you, I forget to actually do my job. It's good to see you, my friend. Always good to see you. Ah. Oh, thank you. You know what, I will tell you this. First of all, I'm sorry to hear you had a tough week at work. And if I can entertain or do anything to make that better, you just give me a shout and we'll get some hang time in. But I'm doing pretty well. Obviously, the glasses have helped me tremendously. I've had those headaches for so long I could barely, see straight. During the day, I was just laying on the sofa going, what is wrong with me? Because I've never had glasses before, so I was too, out of it to know what was happening. But I've been doing pretty well. I've been doing pretty well with the glasses have been great, and I've been being more productive than I've ever been. And actually, I just watched with my daughter today. She saw the last half of it, Brides of Dracula. So yeah, Michael, if you don't want to be embarrassed, don't ever go back and watch this stream or any of my streams, because I was talking about how you introduced me to Hammer horror films. So it's sort of funny how that stuff goes. But yeah. Yeah, it's a glasses infomercial. So Nick, my brother asked me, oh, well, how much were they? Where'd you get them? And I'm like, Walgreens. That's what it is. It's a glasses infomercial. It's almost like it's like I've discovered fire, you know? Like everyone who's had glasses is like, yeah, that's what glasses do, man. They help you see. But for me, it was it's been a revelation, these glasses, these superpowers here. There we go. And yeah, I mean, I was looking at Frank Frazetta's work. I was looking at you know, all of those great artists, Bernie Wrightson and all of those guys. But really, honestly, it's Frank Frazetta and Mucha for me, in a big way. And those kind of syrupy skeletons, and I'm putting eels in here because in this world, it's like there's this kind of ether hellscape that these guys travel through, and I wanted to make sure that I created it. Actually, I just realized I could turn this a little bit. I wanted to make sure I created all these creepy things that were around them in that space. You crack me up, Edmund. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of funny because you know, yeah, it's like I'm one of those people who will sit in an uncomfortable chair forever before I think to get a comfortable chair. Like, I'm just so zeroed in on the stuff I'm doing. And I think that's probably a huge part of what I'm doing right now is that, you know, prioritizing yourself, it's like, for me, is really difficult because I've worked in a field for so long where that's just, you know, it's not the case. It's not something that you think about. And that's all fine and good, you know what I mean? I mean, it's ideally that, you know, a part of it, you know, is that other aspect. But but that's just how I've always been. Like, I've always had that kind of tendency, and it drives my wife crazy, you know, she's like, just go see the optometrist. But I'm always thinking of other things I could be doing, and so I'm getting better at it. I'm learning to do it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've got these Guillermo del Toro. I'll put them in frame here if I can figure out how to do this. I've got these Guillermo del Toro exhibition, there we go, little glass magnetic beads that have artwork inspired by del Toro, right? And these things are magnetized to a lamp that I keep right next to my head. And for the longest time, I was thinking to myself, why... it's kind of weird they put the artwork in these little frosted glass beads where you can't really see it. And the first time I turned my head over to look at them and they were in front of me and I saw the artwork in focus, I was like, wow, my vision's been bad for a long time. And everything became like it was in more focus. And I think that's the thing that I think to myself how fortunate I am to be able to just go up the road and get a couple $1 pair of glasses. And you know, it's amazing, but, you know, it is what it is. And yeah, I love it. I love being able to see what I'm doing, and it's made me so much faster at my work. There we go. That's working. So yeah, I mean, just trying to get like this skull right here in particular, trying to get this to kind of feel like it's flowing out of that space. And so a lot of times, you know, someone was asking me on Instagram if I plan out my color palette, and the answer is no. I actually don't plan out my color palette. I kind of just attack it from a value standpoint and then go from there. So something like this, where you've got this character holding the book. Oh, I missed your question. Hold on a second. I did. Let me see what I got. When you are drawing, painting, how do you know? It won't make my reading any better, I can tell you that. I read so slow. When you're drawing, painting, how do you know when to stop on a particular piece? When do you know a piece has enough work and when it doesn't? Okay, that's a really good question, Michael. So here's the thing. Oh boy, part of it, there's two parts to that, right? The first part is you just know after a while, like it's balanced enough. But John Singer Sargent, who was this amazing American painter, had this quote that I didn't know was his. And he said, there's two people responsible in the creation of every work of art. One is the artist, and two is the person who hits them over the head with a 2x4 and takes it away from them before they kill it. And I've gotten better and better at realizing that if I give myself a time limit on a piece, like I say, this piece is allowed this much time, things actually get done. So what I learned how to do is finish my work. I have this kind of, I don't want to say it's abstract because it's just not the word for it. I have this gut awareness of, when I'm overworking something. And you can always tell, and I'm sure you have that moment. So here's the best way I'd put it. Overworking artwork is when you're applying more force to a problem you're trying to solve visually without adding more information into your head. So if that makes sense, so if you're working on a drawing of a hand and you're just, digging a hole in the paper, erasing and redrawing it, the attitude is get photo reference, take a photograph of your hand so that you can draw it correctly and you're not overworking it because you have more data. So there's only so much data. Once I've got a certain amount of data in my head, when I go to do a piece, I know when I'm out of info. So the thing is, either I'm done with it or I need to get more information. And that's a huge part of it. But I don't know. I've gotten to the point now where, honestly, this is a very new phase for me in my work. Like, I'm in the zone. Like, when I was doing the Starship Valiant poster, I've never done a movie poster before. And I'd never done one in gouache. I'd never painted, even part of a spaceship or planets in that particular way I did it. I mean, I have done some planets in my art books. But, I mean, I did that really fast. Like, the brunt of that work I did fast. And, it's like, with a lot of things, sometimes I have to overwork and ruin something before I know what it should have been done, which is an Ian McCaig quote. But this one right here, let me see if I can move this over here. Let's see if we can get this in front. All right, here. I'm making a mess here. Here we go. So here's a piece I'm working on right now. So on a piece like this is page, let's see here. What page is this? This is page 3 of the book. So on a page like this, for that figure, I needed a certain amount of detail, and that's going to be where the audience is going to look. Now down here on the dress, I don't need that detail. I just need enough value to separate foreground and background. And so a lot of that stuff, when I'm working, comes from an understanding of what information the audience needs. So, I mean, it's a lot like what you do as a filmmaker, right? I know what the audience should be looking at, and that's the stuff I show the most clearly. And it's interesting. The more I do this stuff, the more I understand the balance of it, and that's a huge part of it. But I think, like I said, I think that sometimes I need to, or my wife needs to, take something away from me so that I don't wreck it, and that's a huge part of this, and so on something like this, I'd love to say I had a layout and I understood what was going to happen with these figures here, but I kind of didn't. I didn't know what was going to happen with them. I changed this figure a bunch of times, and I just sort of knew what I was looking for. Like, I wanted him to be holding his weapon, but he needed to be holding a book, and he needed to be holding her so she didn't fall off the giant creature they're on. And so everything kind of came out of that. That's why he has his sword in his mouth, like they used to do in the old movies, put the knife in your mouth and jump in the water. So it's weird. My process is very weird. So much of this is invented on the page, like this figure standing here and them kind of traveling up as opposed to just away was completely done on the fly. This section right down here, where you've got these kind of creepy eels and skulls that are lining the tunnel wall, is completely just something that I came up with today. It's a strange process for me, but this is for my students in there. Here's a really good bit of advice, even though I know you guys are not exactly spring chickens. You've been doing some of this for a little while, but this is the thing, right? Is that anytime you spend where you're not doing the thing, you're losing those skills, and you have to start becoming, depending on what kind of job you're doing, you have to really defend your art making time. And for me, that's sort of what I've done that's led to this point that I'm at right now with my work, where I think this is where I need to be, and this is where I need to be spending the majority of my time. And it's a really strange thing, because if you need to be making artwork, it's a really weird thing. But when a lot of those sort of intangibles come together, and your work starts, you just suddenly are just being really productive. You have to kind of chase that and run with it. And I don't think I've ever been as productive as I've been in the last 2 years, and certainly even I could say in the last week since I've gotten glasses. I've had a reminder of how productive I've gotten, and it's crazy. It's a wonderful thing to say, you know, that I'm in this zone. But I think sometimes a lot of things just come together, you know, and it's you know, meeting really cool people like Michael, for example, that have been really inspiring. There we go. So yeah, just putting in this little symbol I've got for this character, and then for this creature that he can kind of summon, which I like that idea. Oh, speaking of movies that I've been watching lately, just realized there's one of my Father's Day gifts that I got was a violin, which not violin, sorry. Violin was for my birthday, but I got a violin stand recently, a wooden violin stand, so I can hang my violin and bow up so I can get to it a lot easier. But my other Father's Day gift was something that I'm still trying to figure out how to use, but those of you guys in the chat might get this. Those of you guys watching may know what this is, but I got this right here. So let's see who can type that in the chat first. So I've been slowly but surely reading and learning about this book right here, but I'm obsessed with Evil Dead 2 lately, and I've been watching it, and yeah, learning all kinds of things that are improving my artwork. Lots of stuff here. This is the key to me figuring out everything I've been doing lately. So there you go. There you go. Michael wins. Michael wins. He got in there. Yeah, there you go, Forrest. Nice. Good to have you with us. Yeah, you gotta love that stuff. So there in this story that I'm doing for the comic book that's going to be launching on Indiegogo soon. And again, my name is Shanth Enjeti. This is Shanth Enjeti Art. If you're new here and you're just popping in, but I've produced 2 art books on Indiegogo. This is going to be my 3rd, but it's going to be my first issue of a comic. And if you look really carefully in here, you can see that our hero is actually carrying a really interesting grimoire. And that grimoire is going to allow this character to, being used in the first scene of this book, not by our hero, to open a gateway. And you can kind of see that this is a down shot of the gate. Whoops, let me make sure you guys can see that. This is a down shot of the gateway, but the way the page is displayed is actually like this, so that it kind of disorients you, and you can see that this is a creature that is on the verge of coming through that doorway. And so I had a lot of fun designing this creature that's going to be coming through the doorway. So if you like H.P. Lovecraft, if you like Evil Dead, if you like vigilante comics and all that cool stuff, you're going to love this book. That's right. It's Ash under that helmet. Oh, that'd be awesome. I think the chin would be way better, though. You know, I think the chin would be way better. So, yeah, this is the character. I just announced this on Instagram, but this is the character right here. And then this is him with the character that's going to be a major factor in the book going forward. And that this page actually is my little nod to the cover of Tim Vigil's Grips #1, which he signed as Liberty. And the cool thing about it for me, when I'm looking at this stuff, is that kind of Hammer horror, you know, look to it that I'm going for. And if you actually look at this, for those of you guys who know me well, and that I'm a fan of the man, Walt Disney, will recognize that this right here is of the little green top of the greenhouse area of the Haunted Mansion in Orlando, Florida. So, yeah, lots of references to the scary, sort of spooky stuff I love. There's a lot of that stuff in here. So, yeah, good call with the Necronomicon. We clearly have got some Evil Dead fans in here. I think the funniest thing for me about Evil Dead and that whole thing is that, and H.P. Lovecraft for that matter, is I didn't know who H.P. Lovecraft was, even though I went to college and met my wife in the town where H.P. Lovecraft was writing in. So it's always kind of funny to me that I got to that stuff kind of late, and it's really, I sort of fell in love with the creepiness of those books. And actually, I got into it because Guillermo del Toro always spoke so highly of it, so it's wild. I knew what you meant, don't worry. I knew what you meant. But Forrest was quick on that one. It was like, Necronomicon. If I had to spell it in a pinch, I don't know if I could spell it. I can barely say it. But yeah, A for the day, Forrest. Nice. Let me see here. Yeah, I was. That was a book that was produced by Trick or Treat Studios, and a person I follow on YouTube. It's Horror Monster Collectibles, and he was reviewing that. He has a custom Necronomicon, and it's just great. Really, it's. I mean, he's obviously, his custom is the one he prefers, but for someone like me, I can't afford a custom Necronomicon. I'd have to either draw one or whatever, and I need to get these books done. And so, yeah, the only Necronomicon I'm going to be drawing, or the Book of the Dead or Grimoire I'm going to be drawing, is the one that's going to be in my comic book. So we'll see where it goes, and we'll go from there. Yes, it's illustrated with the same artwork that was used in the film, although people say there are ones that aren't in there. Like, it's not a giant book. If you look at the side of it, you can kind of see it's almost like a binder. But yeah, let me see if I can get that on camera. Hang on a second here. Let me move this back, and then we'll take a look at it here. So these are, let's see here. I'll push this desk away for a second. There we go. Makes it a little easier. So these are the illustrations from the book, and I believe they're taken from the film. Some of the more famous ones that people know. So yeah, it's printed on kind of like an off-white paper. There's a really cool video on how to improve it, but it's of course got the most famous spread in the book. And yeah, I am not going to say any of the incantations, although I'm not sure. Maybe if there's an Evil Dead fan who knows it better than I do. I'm pretty sure that part of one of the first incantations they read was Nosferatu. So they actually said the name of my favorite horror character. And so that was pretty cool when I heard that. I hope it's true. If it's not true, well then maybe I'll have to pretend it's true. But you never know. You never know. But I love that flick. And I just love the fact, and Michael, I know I was talking to you about this as well. I love the fact that it was done independently. I love that it was done on a shoestring, you know, and that they came up with something that was just so creative and one for the ages. That's the cool part about it. There we go. See if I'm getting this on screen. There we go. I never know if I'm getting all this stuff on screen. And you can see here, like, these brushes I use are Princeton Aqua Elite watercolor brushes. They're synthetic brushes, so they're not real, like, sable hair or anything like that. They're synthetic, and they work really well for my needs. They take the gouache really well. They also work well with ink, and they're not too pricey, and they can really turn a great line. And again, you know, as I said before, I didn't realize, you know, when you can't really see that well, all of the little things that I do with a brush are almost impossible to be able to do, like physically do them, because you can't even really see what you're doing. Like right there, I just put down 2 lines, and they're 2 lines that make up a single line. So if I move this closer to where you can see it, you can see, let it focus, that that line right there, I could have just done one thick line, but I wanted to do two thin lines and frame a lighter gray. That's the kind of crazy stuff I like to do with my artwork, and I really enjoy doing that. So when I can't do that stuff, it's because it's my vision's so wobbly. Those two lines are there whether I put them down or not, and it's really tough to figure out what I'm doing with my stylistic in that case. Let me see if I can move this thing back in a little bit more. There we go. Let's see if that includes. Yeah, that's a little better. So you guys can watch me do it. There we are. You can kind of see a method to my madness here. Or just the madness of the method. There we go. So you can see a little bit of it. Just checking the chat to make sure I didn't miss anything, Michael. You never know with me. You never know. Because I just don't hear it or I just miss it. So yeah, when this book comes out, I think it's going to be probably one of the most important things that I've done for certainly, and I don't do my artwork just so that it's like, oh, well, it's all about me or whatever. It's not. But doing this comic book is a big deal to me. Going back to this art form that I love and doing it on my own terms is a huge, huge deal. And, you know, it's sort of like, you know, when you think about something that you want to try doing, it's on your bucket list. You just want to take, you know, your shot at creating something the way that you've always wanted to. My relationship with comics has been a tough one, and I've talked about it on a previous short video I did about Andy Smith's First Man and my first published comic book job and my first year at college. And you know, it is what it is. You have to kind of sort things out on your own, and for me it's kind of like the start of something new and the start of something old that I want to get back to. Here we go. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. You make YouTubing look so easy. I mean, geez, I watch your videos all the time. One of my guilty pleasures, I know I've told you this, but is I watch your Star Wars videos. We both know what that means, but I'll watch those whenever I'm just like need to have somebody vent on my behalf, but also just the quality of the stuff and the quantity of the stuff that you've done, and I appreciate it. Thank you for the compliment. I'm bad at taking compliments, but yeah, I mean it's I've been doing this forever, and I will say if it's looking easy right now, it's because along the way I think I had that's totally true. We do. Along the way, I had my love of making art intellectualized and dissected as a part of my education. And I never really realized how much of an impact that had on me. When I've taught and when I've been an educator, one of the things that's been important to me is not to have students suck the life out of the things that they love, but and not also for them to live in this sort of arrested development phase with it either. Like there's another way of doing it. And I think that the disdain for pulp, the disdain for comics, the disdain for anything that doesn't fit a very narrow way of thinking had a huge impact on me. And it is something that as I've gotten away from it, I've been happier, and it's responsible for a lot of the freedom you're seeing in my work. I mean, my work is about things that are very much taboos in intellectual circles, and one of the biggest ones, if you know from my first art book, which I know you have, and even in my second art book, is the idea of getting married and having kids being something that's important, and it was super important to me. And so is pulp, so are comics, so is gore, and I didn't get into artwork, not gore actually I shouldn't say, but certain visceral quality, let's say, of sexuality and romance and all of those kinds of things. And it's an interesting thing because those things are very difficult to do, and are very, you're up against a wall when you're interested in those kinds of things, and I think that you sort of saw, you've been talking about what's been going on in pop culture in a lot of your videos, where that sort of cynicism and that desire to destroy those things in pop culture comes from. It starts with that type of intellectualism I was exposed to in college. So imagine what it's like when you love that kind of stuff and you're at sort of the epicenter of where those ideas are being, what's the word I'm looking for? Demeaned, mocked, ridiculed, all that kind of stuff. And that's not really something I've ever had be a part of what I do as a teacher. It's certainly not my driving force. But I'm realizing now, even with my studio mate who's, in his, late 50s, I don't think he'd mind me saying that. And we were both talking the other day about how we're doing interesting work that we're really excited about lately. And it all comes from kind of forgetting some of that stuff. So, the ease, part of the ease of what I'm doing is in the joy of it. Swimming with the current of where my art wants to go. And I'm no longer listening to intellectuals and their thoughts on art who can't make it themselves. That's so important to get away from. And I'm glad to hear it looks easy, because getting that sort of garbage out of my head was a huge, huge struggle. And the ease was sort of hard fought to get here. I mean, to me, things like Hammer horror movies are like mother's milk, I mean, that's just the stuff, Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, those things aren't, they aren't lesser works to me of cinema. They're actually magical in their own right. And so is Evil Dead 2. And I don't, I don't need Evil Dead 2. It's okay to talk about it like a geek and, look at these things. That's great. That's why I love talking about movies. That's why I like watching, Mahler's videos sometimes, is that he's got a really amazing way of looking at these things. However, I don't have any interest in sucking the life out of something in my understanding. As it's like Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. It's I don't need to dissect things, and not that I'm against the idea of exploring, as his character states, but I do think that when you're exploring to demean, you're not really an explorer. You're a cynic, and I'm not a cynic, and I'm also not somebody who is a big fan of ideological puritanism and shame about things. So it's not my bag, and it doesn't matter who it comes from. I think people need to have, a sense of their principles, but I don't think they need to have them dictated by people who think they know better. It's not my bag. Let's see if I can get that on front. There we go. That's a little better. So yeah, I think when you get to that point where people who don't do the thing have somehow convinced you how the thing should work, you got to reset and find where you're going. And I think that's the cool thing about meeting you, which is I love movies. I absolutely obsessed with them. And when I saw what you were doing with your Star Trek fan films, I was like, oh wow, here's someone I can talk to who actually does the stuff, who understands things like you get to the set and you don't have the right uniform or the right insignia. What do you do? Those aren't problems that people who don't do the thing or think about right away. They kind of view it from the omniscient standpoint. And when I'm painting, things like if I'm not wearing glasses, those are conversations that artists have. People who are judging artwork and just looking at it don't think about things like, having the right paint to mix, what paints work together. They're just sort of looking at it as if, they're trying to elevate themselves above something they don't know how to do. And there's just way too much of that out in the world right now. Way too much of it. And those people are they don't contribute anything. They just kind of take away from it. And so, when I look at my heroes, I don't need them to do anything except for be great at what they do. That's kind of how that stuff goes. And I don't need to... it's fun to think about their work and think about what could go behind it. That's all great. But if you're not watching the things and enjoying them, then you're missing out on the whole point. Here we go. Yeah, we do have to do a video on Star Wars at some point. That'll be a fun one. One of my friends is, there's a lot. We'll have to talk. We'll have to talk off camera, definitely, about a bunch of cool stuff. Just lots of insane stuff going on. But one of the people who, I'll leave it at that. We'll talk. We'll talk, Michael. Oh my God. There we go. And I was looking at these cane corsos running these giant dogs, and they have this great anatomical, structure to them. And I just wanted to get that kind of, veiny muscle, quality, that ferocity of them when they run. And so I got some reference photos I found online of various images of cane corsos, put them together, and then sort of mixed a little bit of King Kong in there, because I want this thing to be huge. I want it to be imposing and intimidating. And a lot of the guys that I'm sort of looking at right now who are working in comics and who've inspired me to do these art books and everything like that, their whole attitude is a lot of like what it was in the 90s, in some ways, but also how it was in the 60s and how it was when Wally Wood was drawing, which is, how Mike Tyson fights, frankly. It's like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. That's kind of their attitude, which is your job is to put artwork in front of people that they're going to see and be blown away by and think, I have to have that. And for me,
doing something like this right here. If I can get this to hold here, better put that camera in there a little bit better. But doing something like this and having this crazy double page spread right there that shows this unbelievable, you know, crazy surreal environment is what I want to see when I pick up a book. Look, I want people to see this and go, I have to buy this book. With all the books that I do on Indiegogo, the thing people have to remember is they have crazy low print runs. So if you buy a comic, if you back a comic on Indiegogo, I'm not saying do it for an investment, but what I am saying is if you get a first printing of any book on Indiegogo, it is almost guaranteed to be a collector's item because there are very few of them. Like I'm saying if it's of quality and if it's good, and frankly, there's a lot of quality that's going on there, and I would encourage people to check that stuff out from other creators. I'm actually, one of the reasons I'm learning American Sign Language right now is because I just bought a book from an artist by the name of Kyle Ritter, and Kyle Ritter is a deaf mute, and I want to be able to, you know, introduce myself to him and, you know, say my name is, and spell my name out and say I am learning, you know, sign language and all that kind of stuff, because I'm so impressed. He penciled it. He digitally illustrated full color and everything and wrote his book. And there's some really cool people out there. It's called Starblades. If you haven't seen it and you want to check it out. But Kyle's an amazing guy. He's got a channel on YouTube where you can see him working and you can see him signing. And it's Kyle Ritter, and then I think his handle tends to be Deaf Colorist. But he's an amazing guy, and I've just been seeing a lot of really cool stuff. And everybody is just bringing their A game and working really hard right now. And I think things are a long way off from being manga and what makes manga so great, but I have high hopes for where we're going as artists and in this art form. Actually, let me see if I have it here. I think I do. I do have it here somewhere. It's pretty far down there, so it looks like I don't have it. All right, so thank you guys so much for checking out the stream. I really appreciate it. We've had a lot of people in here, and it's been cool to have some of my students, former students, hanging out here from my days at RISD. I taught there for about 15 years. So it's pretty cool to kind of get a little bit of a blast from the past from some of my favorite years there. So everybody have a really good evening. I am going to go back and do some artwork and say hey to my kids. And Michael, give me a shout. We can do a call on the phone, or we can do something via Streamlabs, and go from there. But everybody take care, and I will see you soon. Have a good night.
It's all